Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill McBride, and I'm welcoming you to a very interesting, I hope, opportunity this Olympic year. My name of this particular podcast is called Happiness in the Long Run, an ABC podcast for thriving through life's marathons. The podcast is based on this book, Happiness in the Long Run, an ABC for Thriving Through Life's Marathon, that I had the privilege of writing a few years ago. And now I want to bring it to you in this Olympic year. Because I believe that an Olympic year is a special time to set real high goals for you and reach the standard of what the founder of the Olympics, Pierre de Coubertin, calls the arete, or quality of excellence. So this is a chance for you to reach that goal. And the reason Olympic year is so important for me is because 2 Olympic years in my life transformed my life for the good and challenged me to reach excellence. I didn't always make my goals, but the process of setting sights changed everything. Let me give the 2 examples. The first was in 1980, before the Olympics of Moscow that year. I was in the seminary at the time, and I was starting to become a little better as a marathon runner. So I developed my skills so much to the level that I felt that I could possibly qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon run. The only problem was I had to see the bishop to get his permission to leave the seminary. So I met with him. This was Bishop O'Donnell at the time of Madison, Wisconsin. And he listened to my story, and I could see in his eye there was a little bit of a look of disappointment. Because according to his point of view, when you left the seminary, you most likely would not come back. So I'll never forget leaving that meeting with him, feeling that I had disappointed him. But I got a letter from him a few weeks later. And in the letter was a check. And the letter that the bishop had written to me said, "Dear Bill, buy yourself a pair of running shoes." And the amount he gave me was enough to buy me a pair of running shoes. So I went to Boston to live, to reach my dream, and I did not make the dream the way I thought I was going to. However, what I learned was that even if you don't make the dream, there is a meaning and a joy at the end of it that says it was worth it. So whatever it is that you have in mind, don't think about success or failure. Just realize that if your heart's in it, it will be worth it. The next story took place in 1996, before the Olympics of 1996, that particular year, which I believe was Atlanta, the Atlanta Olympics. And this one was quite different, but I still had to ask permission of a bishop. This time it was Bishop Bullock, a new bishop in Madison. So my Olympic dream this time, was to develop a relationship between the artists and spirituality. So I was set to go to Taipei, Taiwan, to work with artists for 5 to 10 years. Another dream of mine to pursue excellence. However, on the way to that particular dream, something came to my heart that said, if I'm going to work with artists, I'm going to have to go somewhere that will be a place where artists really think about art 24/7. So I thought I have to go to New York, but I needed now to ask permission of Bishop Bullock not to go to Taiwan for that time. But he gave me some good advice after he saw me, and he thought I looked a little unstable. He said to me, "See a therapist." So I did, but it didn't stop me from reaching that goal and that dream. And a part of that dream, actually, I ended up meeting my now wife, Irene, who really transformed my life for the better, and every day challenges me to pursue excellence. In fact, it was she was the ideal reader of this book. Every chapter, I gave her the words to to read, and her response, her feedback inspired me to keep writing to this point where now I've got a podcast I'm going to pursue to use so you can continue to develop your goal of excellence. So how is this podcast going to take place? Well, this is another Olympic year, 2024. And I'm going to use the words of a bishop, but not a modern bishop, a bishop of 1908, Bishop Ethelbert Talbot, whose words inspired the founder of the Games, Pierre de Coubertin, when they were missing the point of Olympic excellence. Because what happened in that 1908 Olympics was that the countries were using it for propaganda to say, our athletes are the best, our country is the best, we are the best, we are the best. And there were some great controversies that took place in 1908. But the words of the bishop put things into perspective. And he said, the Bishop Talbot, at a conference of other people, and these are the words I give to you today, for us today. He said that, yes, there's only one person who wins the laurel wreath at the end, but that's not the important point. The important point is that all share in the joy of the contest, the struggle that you have taken part. And he said that's where you get the exhilaration and what he said, the soul-saving interest to pursue excellence. And in fact, Pierre de Coubertin used his words to put into the Olympic Creed about the fact that it's not about the winning and losing. It's about participating, taking part, and making a difference through that. So this year, I want to invite you to share the joy of the contest. And this podcast is a little bit of a contest, but more importantly, this podcast is an opportunity to use the words of this book to inspire you in your life marathon. And here's how it's going to take place. I'm having this podcast invitation on December 31st, 2023. Why? Because it's the anniversary of my brother's death, my brother Tom, who for me, for many years, was like my Olympic coach. Because when I went to Boston, Tom was there to inspire me. In 1996, when I had the Olympic Celebration of the Arts, by the way, that was a great opportunity to tell a story about the American runner Kenny Moore running with the Ethiopian runner Mamo Walde, in which at the 22-mile mark, Kenneth Moore had a cramp. And Mamo Walde, instead of saying, yeah, all right, man, because they were actually second and third at the 22-mile mark in the Munich Olympics in 1972. But instead of saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to go ahead, Mamo Walde, and this is what Kenneth Moore remembers, Mamo Walde looked back, and with a look of compassion, a look of understanding, like, it shouldn't be this way, man. You should be here. We should fighting it out to the finish at the end. That's the joy of the contest. But Mamo Walde, so I told that story in 1996. And in that particular time, Tom was also there. He brought the beverages for that event. It was a great international event of pursuing excellence. I'll tell that story another time, maybe one of future podcasts. But what I have here in my hand is, and on December 31st, when we talk about, we'll take a cup of kindness yet. This cup is kind of my prop for this podcast, for this storytelling podcast. I call it the cup of Thanksgiving. Because what scientists tell us is that the number one quality and the number one thing we do to be happy is to be thankful. When you're thankful, you're automatically happy. Fears go out of the way. Appreciation is the number one tool that happy people know, according to a book about happy people. So what happened, and this is my podcast, is going to be on Thursday afternoon at twilight. Tom and I used to meet at the University of Wisconsin Rathskeller, kind of a local pub, and we would share a cup of kindness. We would pour out of a pitcher, share a pitcher. We would pour a cup of kindness and share stories. And Tom always inspired me to do my best. And the words that we shared talking over there were always inspiring. So my hope is that each week we're going to take one chapter at a time. We're going to take words in that chapter. I'm going to review what I call a heartwarming story of inspiration. So it has to be, I'm hoping that I can share my heart with you, because the Chinese word for happiness, by the way, is exchange of the heart. So you can listen to the story. But after the storytelling, I'm going to invite a practice that the person in the story did that brought them happiness. I'm calling it instead of a critical thinking skill, I'm calling it a critical thoughtful skill, where I'm going to present and practice thoughtful gestures that people have used to help them get through struggles and reach excellence. For example, the first chapter is adventuring through adversity. So the struggle of happiness there is somehow facing adversity and continuing that spirit of adventure that says something good's going to happen. And the skill we're going to teach, we're going to work on, it's going to start actually on Thursday, January 4th. The skill we're going to talk about is the skill of a adventuring eye that looks forward. In other words, if you can face adversity with this sense of adventure and look forward, that's the skill you want to craft and you want to use in your own journey. So you can, if you want to picture this event, this particular podcast in marathon terms, it's like an aid station where at the 1 mile or 2 mile mark you stop and you assess where you're at, you refresh and reflect, and you grab a cup from one of the volunteers who's giving you a urge to go on, refresh yourself, and you continue on. That's my hope. That's going to happen every week here when we take it a mile at a time, a chapter at a time, to pursue happiness in the long run. Let me close with a verse of Auld Lang Syne, since it's New Year's Eve, and we sing this song. We ask ourselves, should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Of course, we have to remember old acquaintances, old friendships that will move us forward. And so, one of the verses that people never get to is the 5th verse. And the 5th verse is, "Here's to you, my trusty friend." We trust each other. "And I give to you my cup, as you give me, you share your cup with me." And it ends by saying, "We'll have a right good willy wot." That's Scottish for we'll have a cup of goodwill. We will have a gulp of goodwill. So when I sing the song and when I lead you forward, I want us to go with that sense of goodwill. And then we'll share a cup of kindness yet for the days of Auld Lang Syne. So join us on Thursdays at 5:30. I will upload the podcast every week. My dream is that by the end of July, the end of June, after 26 weeks, you will reach your goal. So between now and our first day on Thursday, I want you to think about this. What is a dream that you've always had for yourself? A dream that will challenge you to pursue excellence. And we'll see you soon.